February 8th, 2022. I'm Diane Barrett with the BE Collection. I'm here interviewing Barbara Brass. Thank you for joining us. Can you hear me fine?
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. What's your pin that you're wearing?
It says celebrate diversity.
Okay, I like it. Looks good. What we do on this part, you probably observed, is just we have a conversation. So are you very politically active, would you say?
Yes. Yes. Against my better nature. Yes. I got involved strongly, very strongly. Prior to the horrid election of 2016, got involved strongly in 2008, and prior to that with our marriage equality. Mm-hmm. That was kind of the first beginnings. And then when we had that horrendous election, I started a resistance group in January of, it was January, it was inauguration day of 2017. Courage Campaign said, don't watch the inauguration, don't do anything except get out there and have anti-Trump Tuesdays. And I couldn't stand to use that word, that name. So I made it Resistance Action Tuesday, and it was RAT, and I called it the RAT.
That was appropriate.
Yeah.
I support that idea.
The first day when we were out there, there were only 7 of us, I think, just the people we knew and I could contact. It was really short notice. So 7 of us showed up, and then I put it out on moveon.org and wherever I could. And the next week there were 20, and then 30 and 40 and 60. And we got to, 150 people would be out there at times. And we were standing at a very busy street corner in Roseville in front of our non-representative's office. And I say non-representative, Tom McClintock, he never did anything for our district. He never lived in the district, but he never did anything for this district, a right-wing, hateful Republican. So we stood in front of his office. It was a great location because the traffic was constant. So thousands of cars would go by when we were out there every Tuesday.
Is that the first time that you initiated the startup of an action like that?
Yeah, that was the first time I ever had done anything. It was basically out of survival to do that. I really knew that this horrid orange piece of what I don't even consider human, was going to put us into one of the worst situations we could ever imagine in our country and the world. And unfortunately, I think I was quite right on that. The repercussions are still echoing around all over the world, and we're living testimony. My family are Holocaust survivors. I saw the beginnings of this kind of thing, learning that history from my own parents and my own relatives. So this is how it starts with people like that. And I just had to do something, and I did. And I was so grateful that there were like-minded people. We live in the most conservative and the reddest district in California, Placer County. So it was heartwarming to see 100, 200, sometimes more people come out and feel the same way.
Are your efforts still active in the same group?
Yeah, what I did, and after a few, maybe it was months, some people said, we can't come on Tuesdays. Can we do it on Thursdays too? I said, sure. So we did RATT, Resistance Action, Tuesdays and Thursdays. So we were out there twice a week. And Pat and I were out there almost every single time. And then when the pandemic started, I had just recovered from hip surgery and got back out on the street. I was out for like 2.5, 3 weeks, came back, and then the pandemic started, and we stopped in the street. But I continued with my mailers, my emails to people. I think I had like 350 on my email list at one point, and now about 100.
Say somebody's listening to our interview, if they wanted to connect with you, to connect to your movement, how would they do that?
they can just send me a direct email at bbare1@me.com. That's B as in boy, bbare1, the digit at me.com.
Okay, great. So this is a way to not only support our legacy, but also to continue what we're doing right now and give support to each other. So that's, I'm happy to do that.
Thank you.
So where were you born?
I was born in Fresno, California.
You're a California native.
Yeah.
And when's your birthday?
May 7th.
Okay. Coming up. Of what year?
1953.
A good year. And for the sake of the interview, what is your occupation that you'd like us to list? Political activist, contractor?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm retired. I'm retired, but I'm busy all the time. And
I can tell that. The reason we ask is because it is career oriented to perhaps, guide women to say, well, maybe I should do that. This kind
yeah,
of
I would say a general contractor is a good.
I was impressed with your contractor activities and doing the panel between your bedrooms.
The secret passage. Yeah.
Isn't it every young woman who would like to have one of those in her life?
Yeah, when the need is there, and unfortunately it's there still for many people. We're not to the end of this road yet.
I agree with that. And so you were born in California, so you're a native. Do you have siblings?
I have two younger sisters, Kathy, who's 2 years younger, and Phyllis, who's 4 years younger. Kathy lives in Fresno now. My parents left when I was about 6 months old, I think, and moved to the Bay Area. So I grew up in the Bay Area, but my sister Kathy moved down there for work at one point, and she's down there still, unfortunately.
And how about your parents?
My mother's still living. She's 89, and she lives about 10 miles from us in Sun City, Lincoln Hills, Lincoln, California.
And your father?
He died very suddenly because of a medical mistake in 1975. He was 61, and he had come down with pneumonia, but he wasn't diagnosed with pneumonia, and he wasn't treated for pneumonia. So he died right in front of me, my mother and my sister, my youngest sister, on the Father's Day weekend in 1975. It was something that rocked my world out of orbit and changed my life in, I don't know, every single way.
How old were you at that time?
I was 22, just had graduated from college.
How awful.
Yeah, it was pretty powerful. So my mother, she did a great job. She was, she had to, I think she had started working part-time, which was good because she needed to, and she continued working and worked full-time for 20 years at least after that, until she retired. So, and she managed to stay in the house and take care of whatever needed to be taken care of, and survived. She never remarried. She did have a wonderful relationship with a wonderful man for 10 years or so, and he died. And she had, a lot of loss in her life, but she did a great job raising us as well as managing when she was widowed.
Mm-hmm. So at what point were you aware of your sexuality being sort of different from what you grew up with?
Well, I think I had some feelings when I was a young child, kindergarten at least, but had no idea what that was. So I just grew up as, a middle-class American girl, and tried to figure out along the way what that meant and how I had to be. I was never girly. I was always tomboyish and loved that, and struggled against the typical female clothing that we had to wear. And that was in the, 50s, 60s, and then into the 70s when finally girls were able to wear pants to school. That was a wonderful breakthrough for me. But I just explored slowly and gently, and I didn't dive in. Took me until I was 30 years old to come out to myself, 100% to myself, and then to others in my world.
Did you marry? Did you marry him?
No, did not marry a man, no children. Never really wanted children except for about 5 minutes when my sister had my niece.
Are you pretty close to that niece?
Close in certain ways. She lives in North Carolina, so we don't see her and her husband all that often. But yeah, we have the connection has grown closer, I think, over the years, and I'm so grateful for that. And then my other sister had a son, and he lives in San Diego, and so similar. We're growing closer all the time, I think. So it's good.
So does your niece know about that incident that almost drove you into motherhood?
I don't know. I don't know. I should tell her if she's interested. I can. We did the film Surviving the Silence, and I can't remember what's in that movie because a lot of people see it, and then I think, well, was that in the movie? Did I talk about that in an interview? It is just in conversation. Did it not come up? So it's hard to remember all the little details that come through the film, even though I've seen it a few times and lived it.
Most of all lived it, right? So then you, what did your father do? What kind of occupation did he?
My father was he was a bookkeeper, was great with numbers, and he was part owner of a furniture store in San Jose and San Francisco.
And your mother? So I was raising 3 girls.
Yeah, she was, before she got married and when she was just learning an occupation, she was secretary. So she did shorthand, and my parents lived in Shanghai during the war, just from 1939 to I think 1950. And they lived in a ghetto there with about 20,000 other Jewish people. And that was their escape from Germany. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here now.
Right.
And many of their, my relatives did not get out. So my mom learned English there, and she also learned shorthand. And when she came to the United States with her father, she was able to get a job as a secretary, and that kind of led her into later doing medical transcription. So she worked for a hospital in San Jose doing medical transcription.
What was her primary language?
She was born in Germany and spoke German until they left Germany in 1939 when she was 5. And she said she got to Shanghai and they had wonderful schools there for the refugees, but it was all in English. So she had to learn English, and she did. That's, when you're that young, it goes quickly and you're immersed in it. And my grandfather also learned a little bit of English. He never spoke really well, but he could, speak English. And we were raised with German at home when I was young.
Then where did you go to college? And
when I graduated from high school, I was a little bit disillusioned with teenagers. So I thought, if college is like high school, I don't know it's going to be the best place for me. So I started at a local community college, and I loved it. It was a perfect time to go to college, especially community college, because so many of the Vietnam vets were coming back and going to school, and a lot of women were re-entering the educational field to better themselves, get jobs, and get into the workforce. So there were adults, not just 18, 19, 20-year-olds. There were adults in the classes, and that really was wonderful for me. And I stayed there for, I think, 2 quarters or whatever. My second year, I went to UC Santa Barbara for a couple of quarters, and then I went to UC Berkeley and graduated from there.
And what degree did you pursue there?
Psychology. What else?
Interesting.
try to figure out what's going on in my mind, in my brain, in myself, and the people around me.
Did it work?
No.
Right. Very good. Very honest. Have you always been an activist? Has that been your direction? Or?
Well, I don't think so, but I think so in a way. When I look back on certain things, I guess if I had strong feelings about something, I tried to make a difference, however that manifests itself.
Was that what was going on in high school and you were transitioning into letting go of high school and becoming an adult?
Yeah, I wanted to be an adult. I did not, I always got along really well with older people. I never related that well to people of my own age. So it was good to get out of high school, go to school with adults, and then get into my own life and start doing what I wanted to do or what I could do or what I found myself doing. Those were a variety of things.
What was your first occupation?
I started doing artwork in high school, ceramics. I made little ceramic figurines, mushrooms at the time. They were super popular. And the ceramics teacher at my high school was very indulgent, and he said, if you want to learn how to load the kiln and fire everything and learn all of this, you can come in after school and do that. So I learned a lot, and I did start selling. They would do an art show at the school every year for all the people in the art classes who had anything they wanted to sell or show. And I put my things out there, and they were very popular. And the school district office said, can you bring them over for the, staff here to buy from you? And then somebody, either that or I decided I'm going to go to some of the gift shops around and see if they would like to buy my products. And I did craft fairs. So I really sustained myself on that for a few years.
Good for you. Have you always sustained yourself on your work?
Yeah, my parents helped me. Going to college at the time I did was so easy. It didn't cost much. I think going to UC was, I don't know, so inexpensive. It wasn't, the way it is today where you have to take out a loan and live the rest of your life paying it off. My parents helped a little bit. And I think my parents and I saved, my parents gave me money to buy a car for my high school graduation. They gave me half and I had saved half. So I was pretty independent and did whatever I wanted to do as best I could, because I really wanted to be independent as a child and felt harnessed until I got out of high school and into college and out of my parents' house.
Okay, so now we're guiding young women, and the financial aspect is something that's very important for independence. And that's what I'm hearing you say. Mm-hmm. You created the opportunity for yourself, actually. That man was a mentor, but then you took it and went. And,
yeah, I did. And I also, when there were opportunities to take part-time jobs to supplement, to have a little more income, because I couldn't always count on the artwork to be enough by itself. So I worked for the Santa Clara County Office of Education as a temp, and worked in different offices. And I met a lot of people that way. I had a lot of fun doing that. I worked at a child care center off and on for a little while. And that was not my favorite thing, but it was, something that gave income. Mm-hmm. And what else? Just a variety of things. I really wanted to learn a lot of what the world was about. So I was open to different things.
That's another key factor, being open. Women tend to say, oh, I'm shy. It's amazing how many women for the interviews have said, oh, you're not going to find anything interesting about me. And it's not true. They are very interesting. And I think we have to own up to our own celebrities in a way.
Well, I felt I was very shy growing up. Mm-hmm. I really felt extremely shy. And when I graduated from college, I was living in my own apartment and doing my ceramics and doing whatever, temp jobs that came along. I decided that I needed to do something to get out of the shyness. And what I did was to go, and that time I lived in the San Jose area, Los Gatos, and I went to the Red, White, and Blue Beach, which at the time was known to be a nude beach in Santa Cruz. So I had the intention of just going. I picked a weekday, figured it wouldn't be busy, got out there, and there were, I don't know, 3 people on the beach. So that was not actually that big a deal, because who's there to see you? And I went out. Clothes off, all, totally nude. Went out there and just relaxed in the sun. And a guy came by who started talking with me, and he said he was a life model for art classes at San Jose State and at West Valley Community College. And he said, would you like to do that? You might like doing it. And I thought, well, okay, what does that mean? And he said, there's an art teacher at San Jose State who if you can work for him, you can work for anybody. And it sounded, the pay was good. I don't know what it paid, but it was better than a lot of places you could get a job with no education, basically. So I said, sure, sign me up. And it was February, it was cold. To San Jose State, and the class was set up for I think 6 weeks, and twice a week you would be standing there in the same pose. So it's a long-term thing. And I was so incredibly nervous, but I went there, I did it, I stood there, and it was a standing pose. And the instructor, he made sure my arm was in the same position after we'd stand for 20 minutes, and then I'd have a break to walk around, move around, warm up a little bit. There was a little space heater in front of me, but I did it. I was really dedicated to doing it right. And so after that, I got the people at the art classes at West Valley Community College. I found out that they needed a life model, and Fred, the guy who introduced me to this whole thing, was working there too. And he said they would like 2 of us together, because they were using skeletons and humans as for the artists. And these were artists who were accomplished. One of the women in the class was from Canada, and she had done all kinds of work for Canadian government, and she did landscapes, and she was just really accomplished. So they were professional, all of them. And it was one of the best experiences I ever had. So I worked with Fred. We would do all kinds of different poses with the skeletons. I'd work independently as well, and sometimes he and I would work together. And it was the best time. I loved it. So I totally got over my shyness.
Was it the relationship between you and Fred that made it the best, or was it that you were totally putting yourself out there?
It was putting myself out there, and he was good to work with, because we just, he was easygoing, and we got along, and I guess he knew what to do. He had done this for a while, so he knew how to do the poses and he explained to me what was going on sometimes if I wasn't sure. So it was just a great time.
Interesting, really interesting. So do you still see him? No,
totally lost contact with him. I have no idea what happened to him or anything, because I moved away from there in 83 or actually 84. And I lost contact with him after that.
What was your first relationship with a woman, sexual relationship? After that? Or?
Yeah, after that. When I moved to Sacramento area in 84, I knew that was when I needed to be myself, which meant being a lesbian and meeting women. So it was the beginning of a couple of women's groups. One of them was SACWIN, Sacramento Area Career Women's Network. And under the guise of networking for, business, but it was pretty much a social group as well. So lesbian oriented, and I went to that. And then there was another one called Classic Older Women, and I was interested, as I said before, I like people that were a little older, a little more mature. So I called that number and asked what their age range was. And she said, well, we were thinking 40 and up. And I thought that would be great for me, but I was 30. So I showed up, and that's where I met Pat, who is my we've been together 37 years.
Has she been your only relationship?
I had a very short relationship with somebody before, and just a couple of dates with some woman, but I was in a relationship. I guess you could call it a relationship with somebody for a few months, but I was not really, it was not the right relationship. I knew that. And then she knew it too. So she released me. And
well, those are good endings, mutual endings, right? I like those. Mm-hmm. And they do happen.
Yeah.
They have to always be conflicted. So anyone in your family homosexual besides yourself?
There was one, let's see, he was a cousin of my cousins. So on my father's side of the family, but he wasn't really directly related to me, I don't think, because he was on my cousin's other side of the family. And I found out that he was gay in like 83, 84, something like that. And then he died of AIDS. It was in the AIDS, I guess, the beginning of the AIDS epidemic. And I didn't even know about that until a number of years later.
What did you do with your psychology degree? Did you start counseling or?
No, I didn't do anything formal with it. I thought about being a psychotherapist at some point early on when I went into the field, when I went into studying, but then I knew that in order for me to be a good counselor, psychotherapist, anything like that, I needed to have a lot more life experience than just graduating from college or even going for another degree, which I didn't do. So I just started living my life and never found any way to use the psychology degree in a formal way, but I think I use all my knowledge and I keep adding to it all the time. And as I am now in therapy, because I really hit hard with depression about a year ago, it just knocked me over.
Really?
And I needed to find a therapist at that time for my own personal survival. I think something that has helped me has been the activism, and that I've kept it going with my Rat Pack email and the connections that I've had with people. And I know during the pandemic, for some reason, it was really strange that there were very few phone calls with people. There was not a lot of connection, and I reached out to people. I made the effort because I needed it, and I still need it. And I even asked friends who live in other parts of the state or other parts of the country, can we just do a Zoom? We don't have to just do a phone call or emails or texting. I mean, first it was a few emails and a few texts, and then maybe a phone call. But I said, I'd like to see your face. I'd like you to see my face. I'd like to have the best connection we can have because we can't get together physically. So I started doing some of those things for me, I mean, purely selfish reasons. I needed that connection, and I made it happen.
Oh, that's great. Good for you. Good for you to figure out that you needed help because you're so independent. And I think a lot of women, especially lesbians, having worked with a lot of them, and I am one, we have a hard time admitting we need help.
Yeah.
Expect ourselves to keep going on and be independent, but help is important. And a lot of women, as you listen to the interviews, became suicidal during their process of coming out. And I think how many women were successful in being suicidal? I don't know them. I'm sad about that. So that's why someone like yourself can inspire women, give them hope and direction. So
Well, I have to inspire myself every day, practically every minute of every day, and that's a full-time job, and it's hard.
do you give yourself any breaks?
Hardly. I have really high expectations. I have, a lot of, I feel a lot of demands on my energy, on my time, on everything. I feel a lot of responsibility and always have. And as you said, we always want to do it ourselves. And I've always pretty much done it myself, even in the construction business. One of the reasons I got involved in it was because we had a contractor over here to replace a window, and he flaked out on us. And it just made me so angry that this stupid person could do something, and I should be able to do it. If this guy could do this work, I could figure it out. And that's what got me going, that I was angry with what the status quo. And so I just pushed myself.
Those situations just put us in the victim role. We don't do well with that. Yeah. So do you have a big contracting business when you were working at it?
No, not at all. I just did some small remodeling jobs, some maintenance type stuff. I did our house, and that was a full-time job for years. And there's still a couple of corners left that could use a little work. But we worked on our house, Pat and I both together. And the biggest job I did was my sister's house. They live about 10, 12 miles from here. And we pretty much redid their whole house. Wow. I subcontracted out the big parts, the roofing and the foundations, but I did most of the framing, most of the plumbing, most of the electrical, and the finish work of sheetrock and that. So that took about a year. Yeah.
So what's your dream for yourself for the future?
Surviving in feeling better.
How long have you been together with Pat?
Since 1984. So will that be 38 years this year in September.
What's your anniversary date?
The 29th
of
September.
Oh, September. Okay. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, we chose the date we met, and that has been our anniversary. And then when marriage equality came around, we were able to get married legally on that date. So we chose that date. So makes it easy to just remember one anniversary day.
That's what I like about lesbians. We know we have a lot of special dates. So we pick one major one.
Yeah.
Although three, so that's us. So if you knew that you were going to die soon, what would you like to be remembered for?
Oh, pretty much everything I talked about.
Okay. Well, now that's why it's archived.
Yeah.
I like that. I mean, we all tell our stories, but the fact that this is available and will stay that way forever. Do you have questions you'd like to ask me regarding what we're doing or about the collection itself?
Well, you explained really well, and we have watched a few of the interviews already. I think we saw you interviewing your wife, and a couple interviews and a couple of single interviews. So you do a great job, and I think it's so important that our voices are preserved and available.
I look forward to meeting Patsy, and I'd like you to meet some of the people on our staff. So this is my partner, Marge.
I use the word spouse.
Spouse.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved the interview you did. That was great.
And we have, this is Pat, my friend Pat Williams. She was the first person we interviewed.
Come on over.
Hi, how are you?
Hi.
So Pat's a tradeswoman, and so she could relate to your construction endeavors, probably.
We'll have to find your interview and watch that one next.
The first one we did a year ago this month, actually. And she led us down the path of the archives for Cal State Dominguez Hills. And we were aware of the Mazers. She was on the board there. And we've known each other a long time. So she's a gift. And this is Kelly.
Hello,
He's our technical advisor. He got us, getting you set up.
I'm a wannabe tradeswoman.
He's still
Nice to
working
meet
on
you.
it, right?
Good to meet you.
So we wanted them to meet you. And I'll remember your stories. They're very good. So thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
good